We start on some moon planet in outer space as a Kree boss lady called Dumb Bitch. Dumb Ben. Ben finds a sparkly bangle that was buried in some rocks. But this ungrateful git ain't content to just go home with a free piece of jewellery, because it was supposed to come with a pair, and now she looks well stupid for just wearing one odd one on her wrist. Then we cut to Jersey City, where teenage superhero Kamala Khan, who recently starred in her own Disney Plus Marvel show a few years back what no fucker watched, wonders why her bangle is starting to ominously glow, as she's soon teleported to God knows where. Then a title card appears pointing to earlier that day, as we catch back up with Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, and her pet alien tentacle cat Goose. And Goose is its name, not that it's half cat half water bird or some shit. And she gets a call from that one-eyed super spy Nicholas Fury, who's recently had to deal with a secret invasion over on Disney Plus, or also no one watched. Anyway, he asks her to go check out a weird energy signature on the alien moon planet, whilst Monica Rambeau, who we first saw as a child in the original Captain Marvel film, and who also gained superpowers in that WandaVision show over on Disney Plus that actually quite a few people watched this time to be fair, investigates a weird anomaly whilst out on a spacewalk. And after telling Fury she's not quite ready to reunite with or even talk to her old Auntie Carol, given she ain't seen her for 30 years despite being close friends with her as a kid, genius scientist Monica decides it'd be a real good idea to totally touch that weird ass space anomaly what's giving off all kinds of energy and some of which might even be radioactive, while said Carol Bird totally does the same on the other side. And before you can say, this'll end well, Kamala's bangle goes off at the exact same time that they both touch the energy beams, and resulting in them instantly trading places with one another because reasons. Naturally, Kamala finds herself in Earth's orbit and inside a spacesuit with dodgy VFX on her helmet. Monica ends up on the planet where Carol was just on, whilst the captain soon finds herself in a super stalker's superfan's bedroom, where some nutter has plastered the walls with pics of her face and seems to have made her whole boudoir a fucking shrine to her entire existence. Heading downstairs and just finding some gormless Asians sitting about and wondering why some white devil honky bird is stomping about their gaff, she swaps places again, and this time discovers that the Kree are going after the Skrulls on a planet called Tarmax, and so she's going to go after them right fuckity now. But Fury says, please don't start getting involved in stuff you know nothing about, love, because the Skrulls are on a peace and reconciliation tour, and you're the type of person who just makes everything worse, and she... Meanwhile, Kamala is back home in her place, as her bewildered parents tell her all about how her favourite celebrity of all time was just up in her bedroom and crashing about in her closet and stuff. But before she can scream in giddy excitement and also tell him how she just took a trip to space without having to cough up millions to a beardy billionaire for Virgin Galactic tickets, we cut to Carol infiltrating a Kree ship was up in orbit over a Skrull refugee colony on Tarmax, as down below, that Kree leader Darben lady tries to peacefully negotiate peace with the Skrull Emperor by passively aggressively threatening them to join their new empire in return for relocating them, or else she'll peacefully strip the atmosphere above the colony super peacefully and she. Meanwhile, Carol soon gets spotted and starts engaging in superpowered fisticuffs, leading her to trading places with that brown stalker girl again, as alien flirking cat Goose gobbles up some goons and promptly scares the poppadoms out of this poor Asian kid. And once again teleporting back home, Kamala tries to explain to her fam how she keeps jumping around uncontrollably in space-time and also just found an alien cat what eats people whole. And before you can say, if you think it eats people whole, why hold it up directly in your parents' faces, Goose spits out said goons right there in her living room, and thereby sparking a superpowered super fight between all three heroes, as Kamala's personal idol Captain Marvel trashes her house totally unnecessarily by smacking the baddies into walls and up through the ceilings and shit.
Was that really necessary?
And after battling enemies in a random house and over on a ship in another solar system, Monica now finds herself on Nick Fury's Saber's space satellite, just in time to see Marvel's most badass super spy get smacked around his own station. And she doesn't really seem to care that her pensioner boss almost got yeeted by a young alien girl, cause she's too busy coming to the realisation that they only seem to switch places when they all use their powers at the same time.
No way!
Now down on Earth to ask why a local Asian kid seems to have superpowers and also keeps switching identities more than your average leftist on TikTok, Monica tries to make sense of the situation by taking readings on a high-tech tablet, whilst Kamala hilariously makes a good point when wondering why, if it's meant to be classified top secret intel, is it hosted and displayed on a totally transparent and see-through device? But Monica just shrugs, and soon explains that they switch places because all three of these super diverse super ladies have light-based powers, which are now all entangled because reasons. And as Kamala swaps out again, Monica soon has no choice but to say hi to her long-lost Auntie Carol, who first abandoned her for 6 years when she was a kid due to her having memory loss and forgetting who she was, and then abandoned her for a second time after she went to finish her battle with the Kree at the end of the first movie and didn't come back for 30 years. Liberties! But naturally, it's all too awkward for Captain Kaz, so she soars off into the sky rather than face her problems like a grown adult, and leading to her inadvertently doing that switcheroo move again. And after they hear poor Kamala screaming for her life from a few thousand feet above, Fury tells Monica to stop whining about never having flown before and go catch that reckless teen already. So she uses her quote, "Black girl magic," to try and save her new multicultural mate, but unfortunately, she phases right through her given she has to use her phasing powers to be able to fly in the first place, so she's about as much use as a chocolate teapot in this situation. And it looks like it's curtains for this pair of diverse Wallies who are about to get squashed flatter than this movie's box office numbers.
Bruh.
Till Cam activates her own light powers to try and stop their fall, but only ends up swapping places with Carol again, and the pair soon find themselves slap bang in the middle of the Kree's lair.
Uh-oh, spaghetti-o!
And after Dar-Ben comes out and learns that Captain Marvel, aka the Annihilator, is back and causing trouble again, she pops on her new fancy bangle whilst Kamala hides her own, given it's the matching one what the supervillain standing opposite her needs to reinstate their empire and take over the galaxy. Or some shit. But before said supervillain can callously kill two unarmed hostages, that marvellous Carol appears and totally saves their ass, though accidentally ends up supercharging her nemesis when she shoots some energy beams at her face while promptly just absorbed by her fancy bangle. Go! And after following her down to the planet, this dumb Ben broad just can't believe the Skrulls seem to have betrayed her and undermined their peace talks by summoning the woman who ruined the Kree home planet 30 years ago and destroyed all their lives, so promptly tears a hole in the atmosphere to start annihilating the colony in revenge. So naturally, Carol tells the Skrull Emperor, who seems to have the world's cheapest crown, what looks like something his kid made for him out of silver cardboard as part of a school project, that they need to evacuate pronto despite them having nowhere else to go. So the girls round up as many poor sods as they can to the evac pods and get the heck out of Dodge. And the Emperor just can't believe they were saved by a superhero so heroic. She imploded their people's peaceful peace talks and just got a bunch of their buddies killed, given she causes trouble wherever she goes whilst only leaving death and destruction in her wake. Whilst a little later, Valkyrie from the Thor films arrives, played here by Tessa Thompson, who turns up still wearing a Men in Black suit for some reason. And so she can take the remaining Skrulls to a safer place, which is presumably any spot in the cosmos free from the presence of that meddling Captain Marvel bird. Whilst elsewhere, naughty Kree baddie Dar-Ben gives a speech to her people whilst recapping their tragic backstory. As it turns out that once Captain Marvel destroyed their giant AI called the Supreme Intelligence off screen 30 years ago after the events of the first movie, everything went to proper shit, bro. And their home world of Hala soon fell into a civil war which depleted all their natural resources. And that's why Dar-Ben is so vengeful, given her arch-nemesis undemocratically destroyed their cultural and socio-political leadership and then personally crushed her under a bunch of rocks before she could stop her. And to top it all off, now their son is totally dying because reasons. Meanwhile, back on the ship, Monica totally bollocks her old auntie for ghosting her for 3 fucking decades. But Carol just makes excuses about biting off more than she could chew, and how she had bigger fish to fry than coming back to visit some entitled kid what she's not even biologically related to. And a little later, Carol officially introduces herself to a #1 superfan. As said #1 superfan proceeds to explain about her bangle and also recaps the plot of her Disney Plus show, what again no fucker watched, even when repeated on network TV last year. And turns out the bangles are really quantum bonds, what contain immense energy and which initially was meant to create teleported jump points to anywhere in the universe. And given she only has one bangle and is thus using a hammer to force open artificial wormhole rifts, Darben's repeated rupturing of jump points is causing temporal instability and thus endangering the entire universe.
Oh shit, not good.
After using Kree tech to revisit their memories for clues, and presumably also to pad out the runtime, the group soon realise that Darben's trying to find planets with natural resources. And given they suffered a drought and now their seas are drier than a nun's clunge, the Kree will be after a water planet next, so their leader can tear open a jump point in space and draw all the planet's H2O over to Hala. But before they can switch off, Monica accidentally sees Carol's painful memories of when her mum Maria Rambeau was dying of cancer years ago. And Carol in turn sees how Maria died alone whilst Monica was busy being blipped by Thanos. You know, the giant purple alien with a ball bag chin what loves a sassy finger snap. And after working together to hone their entangled abilities, and mainly by the power of one-handed juggling and awkwardly skipping rope for some reason, they all have a three-way, but not in the good way. Before heading off to the planet Aladna, given it's mostly water and Carol has a prior connection to it, whilst Fury brings Kamala's parents on board the satellite station and also finds a strange pink egg in a lower compartment. Down on the surface of Aladna, Carol explains how she's kind of famous here on this planet and all. And before they can say, is it for dooming an entire civilization like you did on Hala, or maybe for getting your flat ass roasted on Reddit like current day Earth IRL, Carol says nah fam, because she just had a thing with the prince, has totally now the planet's princess and she. Whilst the others just can't believe that these peeps can only communicate by singing and dancing and are basically a race of insufferable theatre lovies. And after the prince arrives, she gets some fancy new threads free of charge, as actress Brie Larson thereby technically becomes a literal Disney princess. And soon warns the prince via cringy singing that they're about to get invaded by some lanky chocolate lady who wants a bit of their water. But luckily, the prince is totally bilingual, so they don't actually have to subject us all to shitty song for too long.
Oh, thank God.
And the prince promptly gives the other two dopes fancy new threads of their own in preparation for war. A little later, and Darben finally attacks, as the trio face off with her to try and remove her bangle and stop her from doing a bunch of bad things. But they all get smacked up, until Kamala accidentally switches in and lets the enemy totally spot said bangle. And after an exasperated Darben asks where the frig she even got that thing, given she spent ages digging in random moon rocks trying to find it, she casually just says that her granny sent it to her in the mail. Which is so unfair, because all my granny sends to me in the mail is a birthday card with a pound coin taped to the inside and a small pack of Werther's Originals. But anyway, she soon cucks out and runs off, allowing Carol to tag back in and pick on someone her own size. And before you can say, if you know her bangle absorbs energy and just makes her stronger, why would you try and use your energy powers against her? Dumb Ben successfully rips open another jump point to divert Aladna's watery goodness over to Hala. So Monica and Cam cuck out again and soon commandeer a ship. But given they're women and now trying to drive a moving vehicle, they instantly almost crash into the sea, as super macho Captain Danvers soon takes over and tries to fix a mistake. But the others say it's way too late, Gil, and Kamala activates the hyperdrive to get them the heck out of Dodge. And mainly so the superpower crazy lady don't get a grubby mitts on the second bangle and risk destroying the universe and she. After having an impromptu struggle session and crying about their feelings in a small field, Carol reveals that she thought she was doing the right thing when she fascistically destroyed the Kree AI leadership system and collapsed their entire system of governance and civilization overnight, and feels really bad about it, bro. And starts to think that maybe her nickname of the Annihilator may be pretty apt. And all that guilt is the real reason why she never came back home to little Monica and her mum Maria. And after realising her nemesis is targeting every planet she cares about and draining resources from everywhere she calls home, then that must mean that the Earth is totally next. But unfortunately, Darben is already there, as furious Nick and the gang furiously tried to figure out how to evacuate 350 personnel from the Sabre Station Brondo, when suddenly they find some more of them random egg things, and after one of them hatches, they realise that it's more of them phony fakey cat cosplaying flirking things, and that super skanky goose hoe must have been a real naughty kitty rather recently. Meow! But anyway, after all the eggs burst into a bunch of CGI cats, Fury immediately picks one up to snuggle, despite the last time he did that, he lost a fucking eye. And the hungry pussy just gobbles up the nearest bloke like she thinks he's Katie Price or something. But before they can press F to pay respects to that random chap what just got eaten by pussy but not in a good way, Fury gets an idea, and once Carol and co come on board, they just can't believe Nicky Boy's letting an armada of alien felines gobble up the crew, given it's easier to evac a bunch of CGI kittens than 350 human personnel. Because that's surely a bit of a risky plan, given they presumably have no idea what happens to objects consumed by flurkins, nor what happens to the human body when people are ingested and shit. But he just says,
"Nah, it'll be fine."
Whilst elsewhere, Dum Dum Ben opens up another crack to start sucking up the sun, as Kamala's parents tell her to stop whining about wanting permission to join her new space buddies and go sod off and save the world already. So she sends her parents off with Fury and his pussy pals to get back down to Earth. But the kitties soon get travel sickness and promptly start spewing up bewildered baldies, but luckily manage to crash land in a local park, safe and sound. Meanwhile, Carol confronts her arch nemesis up on her ship, and tells her to hand over the bangle and stop bloody doing all these bad things. But she totally refuses, and probably gets ambushed by Captain Marvel's mates, as they all gang up on her and smash her into walls, which then leads to her getting impaled, and implying that death seems to follow this Carol bird, what seems to indeed just leave death and devastation in her wake. So she's kind of got a point, to be fair. And she still refuses to give him a fancy bracelet, so Monica suggests Carol repays her debt to the Kree people by jump-starting their sun's core, which is now slowed and cooled. And naturally, she's a bit uneasy about the idea of going into a fucking sun and trying to jump-start it with some vague sci-fi mumbo-jumbo hypothesis what her mate just came up with on a whim, but decides to do it anyway because she's supposed to be a hero and stuff. But Darben soon shakes off the pesky gut wound and takes advantage of their distraction, whilst proceeding to totally nick Cam's bangle. And before she can go nuts and open the super portal to start diverting the sun's solar energy to her home planet, Carol tackles her off into deep space, where Dum Dum Darben Dum Ben soon overloads with energy and disintegrates real good and proper, but unfortunately tearing a hole in space-time in the process. And rather curiously, turns out the veil between realities is just made up of purple hexagons for some reason. Anyway, now no longer entangled, they tried to figure out how to close said purple space-time hexagon things, which ultimately involves Cam and Kaz reproducing the same amount of energy that created it, where Monica will then absorb it all in order to close it from the inside. Some shit. So Carol reunites Cam with a second bracelet, as she narcissistically boasts about how the bangles have travelled through space and time to find her. And before you can say, well, the first one was mailed by your nan through the post, and the second one you just nicked off a dead woman's corpse, but okay, girl. Monica gets bukkakied with their warm releases and soon starts to glow super white, before proceeding to fly off toward the giant black crack to heal up the cosmic fissure. And after successfully closing it, she realises she has to stay on the other side. But before Carol can ask, why can't you just close it from this side and who comes up with these arbitrary rules, Monica is soon lost to another dimension, where she just becomes another ethnic minority migrant illegally crossing the border into some foreign territory.
Damn!
Cam then reunites with her fam, and promptly tells Nick how Monica started glowing worse than a fed on 4chan and then got swallowed up by purple hexagons. Whilst Carol heads on over to Hala to fulfill a promise, and she somehow survives reigniting the centre of her fucking sun and thereby totally saving the Kree homeworld without a scratch. But she's still a stunning and brave Mary Sue with absolutely zero weaknesses. Huzzah! And we end with the Khans moving into Monica's house in Louisiana now she's fucked off to another dimension, whilst Kamala heads over to NYC to lurk in the shadows of young girls' apartments to try and recruit them into a new gang, cause she's putting together a diverse team of stunning and brave kid superheroes for a young Avengers team. And before you can say, why bother having any kind of Avengers team if you have one single hero who is stronger than a friggin' star? We cut to the funky outro, before a mid-credit sequence reveals how some scientists have picked up an illegal immigrant who just unlawfully crossed into their realm and are now giving her access to free medical care. And she then meets an alt-universe version of her deaded mummy, Maria Rambeau, and also a giant blue beastie fella called Beast, and fresh from Vox's X-Men universe back in the day. 'Cause member berries, bro. And whilst Monica is contemplating how on earth the multiverse is real and wondering if maybe there's a version of this film out there that doesn't fucking suck, Maria just asks who the freak she is, and presumably then requests to see her identity documents to determine whether she has the right to remain, or whether she's going to be sent packing to Rwanda if Rishi's bill ever passes the House of Lords. And that's it. That's the movie. Though my favourite part was realising that if they had just given the villain what she wanted in the first place, they could have avoided all this carnage by just letting her put on the second bangle and totally disintegrating herself, and thereby saving the poor Skrull colony from getting destroyed, and also the singing musical theatre lovies from having all their oceans drained and shit. But anyway, that's the plot and that's a lot. Considering that movie, so you don't miss any future recaps. You tell me if you like this flick in the comments, if you have time, and I'll phase through you in the next one.